From the Arkansas Sports Network, it's an in-depth Arkansas Razorbacks podcast featuring the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Brad Caldwell.
When I grew up, I remember the Quinn Grovey days where the SWC champions in 88 and 89. I mean, that was the time that I grew up. That's the time that I got hooked on Razorbacks.
Around here, we call him the Rain Man of Arkansas Razorback Sports, Mr. Teran Miller.
Real quick, speaking about going down to Baton Rouge, and all the corn dogs and all that nature. But y'all remember the time Bobby Boucher intercepted the quarterback and his pants fell off?
And finally, he wears his hair upside down and he pushes all the buttons, Mr. Bill Harshaw.
When you look at the Razorback athletic program across the board, Hunter Yurichak's got this thing moving in the right direction. Because these kids are looking at Arkansas athletics going, hey, Arkansas is the place to be, and we haven't had that in a while.
Everyone get ready, because you're now connected to the Razorwire.
And welcome into yet another episode of the Razorwire. And again, this week we are live from downtown Russellville at the Old Sports Bar and Grill, the Old Bank Sports Bar and Grill, and specifically in the vault room. So here we are, and I'm sure the Razorbacks wish they were somewhere comfortable like this last week.
It's rough, wasn't it? I mean, we got really excited about what could have happened, but we also, I think in the back of our mind, knew that we were going to get beat. Now, I really didn't expect to get beat like we did, and Georgia really showed how good that they are. I really think that they kind of took a step up into what we know now as the elite, which is Alabama and Georgia. But we kind of knew that before, but they're cemented now.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like them and Bama, and I really feel like Georgia's better than Bama as of right now. They're just on another level than everybody else is, and we missed a field goal. We come out, that crowd, we're in the worst end we could be in. We get the jump off, the legal procedures are off the bat, and it was just a buzzsaw, and it just really just took us out of the game right off the bat. And I don't think they're 37 points better than us, but they're definitely better than us.
I think they're one of the best teams in the country is what they are, and I think they proved that statement against the Hogs, unfortunately. And, they said we wasn't going to sniff the end zone. We didn't sniff it. And, there was a lot of miscues. You have not only the false starts that we were talking about, it's loud atmosphere.
Yeah.
They didn't have the music up high enough when they were practicing.
Right.
But you also have to, think about, going on the road for the first time. That was something. And the early start, did that have anything to do with it? But then you can't have a block punt.
Yep, definitely. Turnovers. I mean, I don't remember the statistics, but when you have a block punt, your chances of losing are like over 50%. I know that much. It's way up there. Definitely can't have that, and I totally agree with you, Bill.
Absolutely.
Virginia Tech made a living off of that, built a program off of being able to block punts and special teams and that sort of thing. And
Beamer ball, baby.
Yeah, it definitely changed things there. Virginia Tech went from one of the bottom dwellers to almost winning the national championship in 1999. But, man, I tell you what, it was disappointing. It was disappointing to see that punt block again. You already have one versus Rice. That's disappointing enough in itself. And then you give Georgia every chance and all the momentum. And really, in essence, that was the ball game at that point. I mean, it was 14-0. And then you get the punt blocked. You're down 21-0 at that point, and there's no chance of you coming back. 14-0 is not insurmountable, even against a team like Georgia. Right. But 21-0, that's all she wrote at that point. The momentum was squarely in the corner of Georgia, and of course, they were ready. I mean, you got to give it to them. Yes. They were ready to play Arkansas. They didn't take Arkansas lightly. The crowd didn't take Arkansas lightly. Everybody was ready. Game day didn't help nothing.
Right.
Honestly, it really did. I mean,
us.
It really hurt Arkansas to have to go into that environment, play a game day game, and just really, I mean, the atmosphere was electric for an 11 o'clock game. Probably the best atmosphere I've ever seen for an 11 o'clock game.
Yeah.
Almost 100,000 in there, and they were all ready. And unfortunately, that was a problem for Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you talk about game day, and the big thing that really kind of gun under my skin was Lee Corso dropping that helmet. And I understand that, you're going to have to make a decision, and you're going to have to pick one of these, but you don't have to blatantly disrespect the other. And I just hope Corso doesn't step foot in the state of Arkansas again.
Yeah,
Well-
Feinbaum kind of did the same thing with Texas.
Corso's almost done, there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I saw somebody, they got offended by that, and they said, well, at least I'll be alive in the next 5 years. I'm thinking, man, that's a little too much. It's a little too far. But, it was kind of disrespectful for sure. But that's Corso's shtick. I mean, he's wild. And, I mean, that's why they still have him on there, because really he doesn't bring a lot to the table anymore. Like he did, 10, 15 years ago.
He almost seemed like at a couple of times he was just completely lost as to what even they were discussing.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough the last few years. He was Sunshine Scooter himself. He was roommates with Burt Reynolds at Florida State, so you'd think he'd be a little bit more pro Arkansas, of course, but obviously Reynolds didn't go to Arkansas; he went to Florida State. But I think he's just like Bill said, or Brad said, he's basically just on there for that kind of stuff now. It's a nostalgic thing for a lot of people. That show's been going. Game Day's been pretty big for almost 15 years now. I want to say something of that nature, maybe longer. And so I think he's just kind of an extra, kind of bring some more interaction there, and people love whatever he decides his pick is.
A couple quick tidbits to talk about hot off the razor wire. We have the Fall World Series starting tomorrow at 3.
Yeah, I mean, death, taxes, and Arkansas baseball being the national championship contender. That's where we're at right now. And, you're just looking at this year. You're looking for the breakthrough. Obviously, the biggest thing is they've got to figure out a way to replace Kevin Kopps.
Yeah.
You don't replace him. They got to come up with several ways, several guys to be able to replace him on the pitching staff. But Dave Van Horn's going to come up with something. He just does. He will, and he is the man when it comes there. Back in 2011, I said Dave Van Horn was the best coach on campus. That was when Bobby Petrino, Mike Anderson had just showed up there, that whole thing. He's still the best coach on the campus even now. And I include Musselman in that. Until Musselman can get us to a Final Four, get us on the precipice of a national championship, Dave Van Horn's the man. There's a reason why that they're having to pay $10,000 to sit behind home plate now. That's unheard of in college baseball. And the Razorback baseball, they're going to be in it, and they're awesome.
How you gonna disrespect my boy Lance Harder like that? No, I agree. Of the big three, for sure, he's amazing. He's got it figured out, and he'll get it right. We've got some young guys. Heston Toll is one of them that comes to mind. Couple, the kid from Greenwood,
Nolan.
Yeah, Connor Nolan. I really think he's gonna have a bounce back year. Finally, kind of get over this injury stuff, and he was coming on a little bit at the end, and I can't wait to see how he kind of brings his game on, and really excited about baseball. I mean,
we'll have another chance to see that too, because the Red White game is October the 17th at 2 p.m. Mark your calendars for that.
Absolutely, and they're right there. The basketball team is right there, and you just got Nick Smith Jr. as your five-star commitment. Here we are now. I think there's a real good chance they get one, possibly even two more 5 stars in the class. Yeah. You're already the number 3 class in the country right now. In fact, I made a phone call today to link your prep to start possibly looking at live streaming one of their games. That's how close I think that they are to getting Jordan Walsh.
Right.
So,
yeah.
5-star kid. I mean, we're just in uncharted territory. Things are just as good as they were last week, except that you just don't have the Georgia victory.
And nobody expected that. You go back to that missing mysterious episode 16, and you're going to see that
nobody
none
picked
of
us.
us
Yeah.
picked Arkansas to defeat Georgia. So I don't think it's a big setback. I think if anything, it's a big learning experience. These guys were able to go into a really hostile environment on the road. And, they took a beating. But what can they learn from it? What can they correct? In Georgia, we got to give them props. They're doing a good job of showing us what we need to work on.
I don't know if Arkansas can ever get to that level. It's like Georgia and Alabama have broke the video game. They've went in there and hacked it in some way. I mean, it's crazy, really, when you think about it. It really is. It's nuts. that they're that good. Both teams are that good. And they're that much better than the rest of college football. It's actually a lot more fun back in the day when you had several teams that could come in and win it. Right now there's 2.
Yeah.
And it's really been that way for quite a while. It's been
Clemson,
Alabama and Clemson, and now it's Georgia and Alabama. Georgia really looks like they're stepping into that role of being one of those teams. And, of course, I know that people don't like it because it's 2 SEC squads. But you look at the physicality of the Georgia Bulldogs.
It's insane.
I don't know how you get there. I honestly wonder what they're doing because they've got 5-star players. They do. They got 5-star players.
That's the
key.
key.
But what they're doing though is they're taking those 5 stars and turning them into 10 stars. I mean, it's really unreal.
They have 5-star players on special teams.
Right. Well, what I think it is they've got several years of it now. They're top 5 every year, top 5. But Kirby Smart is taking the Saban kind of tree, and they realize, and that's why Sam Pittman was there and why he got him there, is you got to build your teams, especially in the SEC, from the inside out. And when you've got 7, 8, 9 D tackles that are 5 stars or 4 stars, high 4 stars, I mean, it's just reload, and I think that's the key to it. And when you have a couple special players here and there, that kind of – the thing with Georgia is – they got those running backs, too, that are physical and hard running. And when you got 350-pound maulers out there and you got guys that run hard, look at the second half against us, how it was just every play they'd get 3-4 yards. We'd have it stopped up, and then they would just start pushing, And then by that point, you're just wore out. And, I mean, we fitted up well. We did what we could in that second half especially, and we had no answer for them.
I noticed a couple times where our linebackers would be in the hole, and they'd be waiting on the running back, and then all of a sudden there would be a lineman come out of nowhere and just boom. Yeah. I mean, I saw Bumper Pool get train wrecked. I mean, it was unbelievable. And, again, I really don't take a whole lot from that game. They're just that much better than everybody else. This week is the one that you can take a little bit more from.
Definitely.
Because everybody is on a little bit more of the same level here,
Well, let me give you something that you can hang your hat on, if you will. Who built that offensive line that you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to get at.
And where is he now?
Right. Yeah,
so
I mean,
if you think that progression is going to continue naturally, then in 3 or 4 years – Arkansas is going to have an offensive line resembling that of Georgia.
It will. The only difference is I don't think we'll ever get to a point where we're going to be a top 5 recruiting. Maybe once in a while, but I don't think we're ever going to be every year because we just don't have the recruiting base. It's just so much harder to do that at Arkansas. Now, if we could ever look at what we've done over the years, like 2010, we're 10-3. 2011, we're 11-2. You go back to Nutt's best years, you're going to the SEC championship games. We did all that with recruiting classes that were anywhere from 20 to 30. If we could literally get where you do it all the time in the top 15, if you get the core group of guys every year, if you get 5 or 6 big time players, and then you trickle them in, and then you find these guys in the transfer portal like we did this year. I mean, we struck gold. Pittman were so good with those 3 guys, 2 from Missouri and Ridgeway from Illinois State. You can do it, and I don't think it's ever going to get to a point where you're just top 5, constantly. But I definitely think we could be right in that top 10 range, right in there. And you can have some special things, here. I think you can do that. But it's just a different machine down in Georgia. And if you look at the NFL rosters, just the number of guys from Georgia is I think it's number 1 overall. It's either number 1 or number 2 state. So, that helps you. That's kind of what's helped Clemson kind of become what they've come as well.
Yeah, there's nothing to dispute there. It's exactly right. And, the only thing that I know that Arkansas can do is if Georgia and Alabama come back to the pack a little bit. Mm-hmm. Alabama eventually will. Nick Saban is not going to be there forever. He's on the downhill slide there at Alabama at some point. Yeah. But I think, your Kirby Smart's going to be at Georgia for a while. but they've got to come back to the pack somehow.
Yeah.
I think that Arkansas can improve. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I think that Arkansas can close the gap. I just don't know if you can get there.
Right.
Those two guys. I mean, what I saw and what I wrote on the morning after was Georgia was as good as a 2011 defense of Alabama and LSU. Those were the best two defenses that I ever saw there at Alabama and at LSU. I mean, those two teams were all-time teams. Georgia's going to make the case for that this year if they keep really doing the things that they are doing. But let's say this real quick. Hey, let us know in the comments what you think. We'd like to know what you think about, whatever you got here. You can interact with us right here on the show at any time. Just leave a chat here in the comments.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. We're not saying that we're not going to be able to beat Bama and Georgia. We're just saying we're not going to – it's hard to ever get to that level of what they're on year in and year out. Look, when Bielema was here and we had Pittman as our O-line coach, we built some of those teams. We had a couple one-point losses. I remember the A.J. Derby game where we were wearing the throwbacks to the 50-year anniversary to the 64 team, Shotgun Hog and all that. And, we should have won that game. It was who was the big running back that we turned him into? He was a fullback, and then we put him back at tailback, Cody Walker, and he fumbles on the one. We lose that game by 1 point. Right. I think Pittman knows how to do it, and he had some talks this week about moving some of those big guys, kind of like he did Wagner or not Wagner, but kid from Colorado. Big boy.
Skipper.
Yeah, Dan Skipper. Him and Denver Kirkland, he did that when they were freshmen, took them to guard, and he's talked about doing Jalen St. Brown and Tykees Crawford this week, and just to get bigger. And I kind of looked into that a little bit, and I think we did so well against A&M with Bo Limmer, with Ty Clary, with Brady Latham in the guard spots against A&M and Texas and everybody else, Georgia Southern and Rice. But I think what he's kind of doing there is he's not firing those guys, and he said that. But I think he's kind of looking ahead. He don't want to get to the Bama game, he wants the best fit anyways against anybody. But he don't want to get to that Bama game and be in the same position that we were against Georgia, where we're literally just helpless.
So I think that we will perform better against Alabama. We won't beat them, but we will perform better against them because we saw that. I also don't expect that to be an 11 a.m. game either.
Yeah.
I say that. It could
I
be.
don't want a 6 p.m. either. And not
right. Exactly. That's probably your more likely scenario, or a CBS game. If Arkansas continues to win, that's going to be determined a lot about what happens this week. But I think that Arkansas has seen that now. They've seen that level of competition. Yeah. It's not going to be something that takes them as much by surprise. I also don't think Alabama's as physical as Georgia is right now.
So that's one of the things that Pittman was talking about in his press conferences this week, is that, they're using this Georgia game to identify exactly what you guys are saying, identify these areas and make these adjustments. He needs more size on the line. He needs to beef them up. And it's what he was talking about with Kirkland and moving them around when he was here before. And let's take a look at Coach Pittman.
I think everybody saw we just weren't ready for the grand stage yet, and that's all of us. And this is going to be a big stage because it's ESPN and all those things. But, the college game day atmosphere, the 93,000, there was a lot of kids after the game, after I spoke with them, said it's the loudest crowd. They haven't ever been in anything like that before. And we tried to simulate it in practice and obviously didn't have it turned up loud enough. The one Saturday, basically they had what we call the hog, and he was on our zone side, and he came on the snap of the ball back to our man side, which basically on what happened, it made us outnumbered. And to be honest with you, there was two things that happened. We got beat at right guard, and the right guard, his man kind of ran into our personal protector, and which basically meant we hit half of the guy coming in to block the punt. And our punter was also outside of the wedge of the protection, and he's got to stay inside that protection because we're blocking inside out on that. And so the bottom line is we adjusted on it, but we can't get a punt block and then go to adjustments. And so we're we're going to change a little bit of things that we are doing just to make sure. And, Scott and I have talked about it. And I said, we just cannot have another block punt. It's just, crushing us. And he knows that. And I know that. The whole fans know that. But we have to be ready for looks that we haven't seen and that we're sound in whatever that is. And so we're going to do something a little bit different this week and see if that can't get us to where we don't have one block. I think every week you look at your personnel and you certainly want to get the best players you can on the field. I don't think that what you do is you learn from a game like this. You learn as a coach, what you did wrong as well. But I don't think if you've had success prior to, you can't just say, well, Georgia's that good, but they are. And so you have to figure out, is our personnel strong enough to block elite players? And so we're going to look at some different combinations in there. We're going to get some guys to challenge inside at the guard spot to see if we can't get a little heavier, a little more physical in there. We'll give St. John and Crawford some chances to go in there and play a little bit. But we're not firing people because of that game. But we're always looking to try to get better and possibly, those two kids have been playing out at tackle. St. John played a lot at guard, or some during the game at guard. And he's just a bigger, more physical guy. Not saying he's better, but I think those two guys, we're going to move inside and see if there's opportunity for them to play for us. I think we've all, in one realm or another, we've gotten the heck kicked out of us at some point in our life, whether it be at home, whether it be physically, whatever it is. And the only way I know how to do it is you get up and you brush the dirt off, you brush whatever it is, and you go back to work. If we do a tremendous amount of difference in what we've done before, I mean, look, we've been underdogs in 14 of our 16 games, including Saturday. We've never been favored to win an SEC game. We're doing things right. We just got to do them better. And so if I make a mountain out of a molehill because we went and got kicked, we got to correct the situation. We got to do better. We got to cut the penalties out. We've got to do better. And we got to coach better. But if I go totally off and start having meetings with the players and all this stuff, I think I'm sending a message that I'm panicking, and I'm not, because we got a good football team and we got our butt kicked by a really good football team, and we don't like it and we're not accepting it. But I'll be damned, Georgia's going to make us lose this Ole Miss game.
I hope he's not working.
And that's what I really like about Sam Pittman. He's always genuine, and I really think he's very happy to be at the University of Arkansas.
Did I put a question mark in the teleprompter again? I forget you literally read that thing like exactly as it's written.
Oh, come on, Bill. You know you're just as off the cuff as Sam Pittman is.
At least y'all ain't got a wasp nest out here to deal with the size of Brad's head.
If people only knew what went on behind the scenes.
Oh, I know. For real, this is not Sports Center. Back here with more Razorwire live from the Old Bank Sports and Grill in downtown Russellville. And I tell you what, we came here last week. They rolled out the red carpet for us. You didn't have the chicken strips, did you?
No, I had a quesadilla.
Brad and I had the chicken strips, and I can honestly say those are some of the best chicken strips that I have had in a long, long time.
So when you can brag about chicken strips, you know they're good.
That's right.
They were really good. So, yeah, we really appreciate Old Bank bringing us in and giving us a place to stream so we can go live. It's a lot easier than what we've been doing in the past. We thank them so much, and we hope that we can continue the success here.
Don't forget to bring up those homemade tater chips.
Man,
those are amazing.
absolutely.
Yeah, so good.
Real.
So we want to know, what is your score prediction for this weekend? Who do you think Arkansas is going to win the game? I mean, that's one thing right now that I think is very up in the air. I mean,
it really is.
This is a 50-50 game, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. Maybe even a little bit more on the Ole Miss side of things. It's going to be even a little upset if Arkansas wins. Arkansas's got a great shot at winning the game, but I just think that this is who's going to make the less mistakes, who's going to make the right plays at the right time, who's not going to fumble the ball on the 1 yard line like we talked about earlier.
Right.
Last year that's what happened with Ole Miss. Not only did they throw the 6 interceptions, but they fumbled the ball down inside the red zone once or twice, I believe. So, what's your score? What do you think that's going to be for Saturday?
Personally, I'm looking at it probably more of a 35 to probably 28 victory for Hogs.
Yeah, I got 31-30 Hogs.
I don't have Arkansas win this game.
Yeah,
I don't. I think
you picked against them in episode 16, I believe.
I did. I actually did. So I did pick them to lose against A&M too. Now, if I had known what I was doing coming into the game, I wouldn't have. But I think that this is a revenge game for Ole Miss. They're going to be ready to play. Mm-hmm. I think it's another. Okay, so here's my question to you guys when it comes to that. This is another 11 a.m. start. It's going to be hostile. It's not going to be as hostile as Georgia was, but still a hostile environment. That's quite a bit of improvement when you say for Arkansas to perform as they performed in Georgia and lose the game the way they did and then turn around and win the game against Ole Miss in consecutive weeks. I will tell you, if that happens, it's one of the best coaching jobs that I've ever seen. I'd feel a whole lot better. If this game was in Fayetteville, I would think Arkansas would win. But right now, I just feel like Arkansas is probably going to lose this game.
If we could win this, like you just said, we're looking at a serious contender to win 9 or 10 games. If we bounce back and win this game against a team that is gunning for us, I know Bill, you got something to say about your thoughts on Matt Corral, and because last year we embarrassed them. Lane Kiffin wanted to throw his play sheet. Corral had the worst game of his life, and we got walk-on kids, Hudson Clark picking them off 3 times. And, Pittman actually was asked about that. Tom Murphy asked, about playing, do you play Clark more in this game? Because he had the 3 picks, and Pittman laughed. He thought it was hilarious.
He was like, that's a good idea.
He's like, I like
thinking
that.
outside the box.
He's like that. I think you're thinking outside the box. And that was pretty funny in the interview. But, they're definitely going to be ready for us. And I like what your idea is on this. Go ahead.
Yeah, man, you look back at the Arkansas game last year, 6 interceptions with Matt Corral, and I've seen some interviews with Corral, and one of the things that they talked about was, what do you credit to you turning your playing around? And he specifically said Arkansas last year. And you go back and you look at his performances since throwing 6 picks against Arkansas, and then probably 6 picks against Arkansas the week after, because it seemed like Twitter was just going off.
Right.
Corral just threw another pick, and I'm like, I thought that game ended like 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
But you go back and look at his performances, and I think that game really shook him. Mm-hmm. It showed him that he's not able to just step on the field and do what he wants. He has to actually perform. Right. And that kind of realized it for him, and ever since then he's played better. So that's going to be something, what's he going to have? He's definitely going to have wanting a little bit of a revenge.
Yeah, that's the first time they saw this play 3 down linemen and drop 8. And, they're almost doing that a little bit. Their defense is kind of similar to us this year. And, they're going to be ready. They have looked at that and dissected it so that doesn't happen again. But, Arkansas is going to do something a little different. Even Pittman even said that in one of the interviews this week, that, they're going to be ready for that. But we will see that too. It'll be a mixture. We'll be multiple on that. And so if the reason I picked us winning this game before the season started was because I knew we had Georgia and we were going to be beat down, but they had Bama. And that was kind of the thing. I was like, if they didn't have Bama, I was kind of leaning towards picking Ole Miss. And that was kind of I'm gonna go ahead and stay with the Hogs here.
Well, you look at this and you say, everybody talks about the Alabama hangover, and with Georgia, in my opinion, being even better than Alabama,
Yeah,
they gonna give a hangover of their own. So Georgia and Alabama kind of have this symbiotic relationship where they're taking their previous opponent, beating them up, and they beat them twice.
yeah,
So, I mean, you look at this and you say, okay, well, they played Alabama last week and got it handed to them. We got it handed to us by Georgia.
Right.
One of us is going to lose this game. Who has the hangover? And I'm going to put my money on Sam Pittman.
Okay, and that's a really good point, by the way, because really
Yeah, it
this
really
has
is.
a lot to do with coaching. One thing that I will point out, though, is Ole Miss got a little bit of momentum going into the final part of that game. I didn't watch it closely, so I don't know exactly what all happened. Did Alabama
scrub
pull
work.
starters or whatever?
So what you're saying is you didn't have your popcorn ready.
I sure didn't.
not after that Georgia
I
loss.
sure didn't,
It was
yeah.
a bad day. We were out.
I was actually getting the morning after column ready.
He puts a lot of time into that.
I do put a lot of time
No, he
into
does.
it.
It's great too.
But
And I got some questions for you about that when you get a chance.
okay, so anyway, I was getting the morning after column ready for then because I had plenty of time to kind of digest and all of that. So I saw that they had scored toward the end, but like I said, I don't know if it's scrub work or not. But again, it's about a little bit of momentum that they got there that Arkansas wasn't able to capture there
Right.
at the end of the ball game. But again, you're talking about 6 days. There's a lot of things that can happen. And the bottom line is Arkansas going to be ready or they're not? One of the two. I mean, I feel like Barry Odom is going to have Arkansas prepared for Matt Corral. But that offense is good.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
they're,
really is.
They're really legitimate. They're going to run fast. They're going to play fast. They don't just throw the ball. They run it
Right.
too.
That's the biggest thing right there.
It's a really tough matchup coming off a game like Georgia.
Their improvements this year is the running game. Their backs are better. They're doing a better job being more physical, and their defense. Their defense was trash last year. It got a little better at the end, but for the most part, it was not very good. It's come a long ways. They hit really well in the transfer portal as well. We got a linebacker, some defensive linemen, and but I still think we are so physical on offense. I think after last week, we're really going to want to get after it because of how that felt. It's going to feel different playing Ole Miss's D-line than playing Arkansas, their linebackers, than playing Arkansas's. Yeah, they've got some guys and they got some spots, but they ain't no Georgia. They're not even in the ballpark. And so I think we're going to find some success there. I'm really I'm wanting to see KJ getting back to carrying the ball a little bit more, kind of opening some things up for himself in this offense. So that's kind of what I'm hanging my hat on. I think we're going to be more physical than them overall, and so
Pittman wants
I think
to,
we're going to score some points.
Pittman wants to get Corral out on them and get him out of the pocket.
Yeah, he's got to move him around.
You got to move him out. You got to contain the
him off them
outside edge.
spots.
But the thing about Georgia, Ole Miss, is everybody wants to talk about Corral and how good Corral is, and he's gotten pretty good since the last time Arkansas saw it. Let's be
Oh,
faced.
he's top 5 Heisman candidate
he's
right
good.
now. Number 2
He's
on a lot
good.
of them I see.
Billy Harper.
But-
Billy Harper's commented in. He says he thinks Arkansas wins 31-20. So
I like it.
That's good. I like that call there. And I'll tell you what, if Arkansas is able to hold Ole Miss to 20, it says a lot about that
Yeah.
defense. That'll be a big one. So
Well-
again, what is your score? What do you think is going to happen?
Think about this. Last year, with the 6 picks and the fumbles, they still scored 21. We won 33-21.
Yeah.
So, I mean, our defense is better than it was last year, but Ole Miss's offense is better too. So that would be amazing.
Everybody wants to focus on the passing attack of Corral, but nobody realizes that Ole Miss led the SEC in rushing last year.
Right.
They can run the football, and we have to be extremely, dedicated on defense, not to bite into that play action. Don't let them go over the top because that's what they're going to try to do.
And
use the run to project the pass.
That's probably the thing that our defense is the most susceptible in because our DBs and our safeties, we played at 3 safeties a lot. They're real aggressive coming downhill, and they help so well in the run game. But they do have that tendency to kind of take the bite there a little bit, the bait, and get hit over the top. So we're going to have to stay home on that, and that's going to help them in the run game a little
Can
bit.
Arkansas run it on them? That's going to be the question.
Right.
Keep
I
the
think
ball
we
out of
can.
their hands a little bit. I mean, I don't expect us to be Bielema by any means, but a 4-minute drive is going to be a long one in this ball game. If you look at the Kendall Briles offense since he's come to Arkansas, basically it's all or nothing. It's a 2-minute drive or it's a three and out punt. There's very little anything else that goes on with Briles. So can Kendall Briles, can Arkansas sustain a drive every once in a while?
Yes.
10 plays. I mean, I know we all want to play hurry up. I'm just saying at this point, it's not as – we don't want to get into a scoring match with them.
Right.
What we want to see is Arkansas get into the 40 range and then keep Ole Miss down around the early 30s, late 20 range. That's kind of what you want.
And Pittman talked about that in his presser. He said, we can't handcuff Briles by doing something we don't do.
Right.
He said, now we've done that late in the game against Texas. We did that where we didn't snap the ball until under 5 and against A&M as well. But they got to be Kendall Briles' system. But they definitely don't need any 3 and outs. They need to try to sustain drives, and it's going to be big. I agree.
KJ, by all appearances, seems to be healthy. That's good for the Hawks.
Yes, it is. And if you lose KJ, a lot of things change. I mean, right now we feel really good about Arkansas winning 8 games at least this year. If KJ goes down, you don't feel good about them winning many more games.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that Hornsby can't come in and get in a little bit of a rhythm, but right now he's just not ready. He's just not ready for that competition. I think what he's doing right now is great. It's going to bring him along. I don't know how long he's going to be here, though. Quarterbacks just don't stay and wait their turn. They just don't do that. So I really don't expect Hornsby to be the guy here. But with that being said, KJ has performed well, but there are still so many things that he could do so much better. But I think a lot of that has to do with just the fact he's a first-year starter.
Yes.
You got to remember that, guys. I mean, he's not going to come in and light the world up this year.
Right.
We've got to be able to depend on that running game and then get him to get those passes, those 80-yard bombs, because that's what he specializes in.
And you brought up Hornsby there, and Pittman talked about that too. He said, getting him in that game because they got in early in that Georgia game. Well, I mean, a lot earlier than a lot of people expected, even in the situation. And he made a couple good plays there in that last drive. And he said this week in practice, Hornsby's by far looked the best he's ever looked throwing a football. He's more accurate, and so he just think that really boosted his confidence. Even in that terrible top situation, we're down 37-0. It just boded well, and it's going to play on the back end. And like you said, you never know. KJ's a play away always from going out, and it's going to be big. And in the competition in the spring going in the next year as well.
Now let's unpack your morning after, Brad.
Okay.
One of the things that you had mentioned in that article is you looked back at the last time that Arkansas was really in this type of situation in the season that we had at that time. And the 2 losses that were really nasty losses that year were Alabama and LSU. Mm-hmm. And you can compare Alabama and LSU from that season to Alabama and Georgia this year.
Right.
And go ahead and talk about that season, Brad. And even though we were destroyed, what happened that year?
So, you end up in the Cotton Bowl against Kansas State, number 6 in the country. You end up winning that ball game. But you win 11 games, and really, like I said, I was very confident in Arkansas winning every game but those 2 games that year. I was on Northwest Arkansas radio at the time, and we would give our predictions every Friday, and I hit every one of them. And it was because Arkansas was that good, y'all. They were that good.
Right.
But the problem was LSU and Alabama were that good too. And that's kind of what you're running into with this team. I love the physicality that this team brings. They're more physical than the 11 team was, for sure. So I feel like that Arkansas maybe a little bit, the gap might be a little closer, especially when they play Alabama. But, I mean, look, would you take an 11-2 season coming into this year? Absolutely. I mean, it would just be, phenomenal. Be almost a miracle if you really want to know the truth.
Yes. It would be.
And I think that they're not as far off from that. I mean, if you win this ball game on Saturday, you are talking about a team that could win 10 in the regular season and your 11th game. And the thing was, in 11, we were the 3rd best team in the country.
Right.
We were the 3rd best team in the SEC West that year. It could be a very similar situation again this year, where you're 2 losses, you've got against SEC foes, you may be the 3rd best team. That's what we're probably playing for this week.
I mean, think about it. If you win this game, if you could run that table and really win 10 games, we're talking about that one of those playoff spots, the 3 or 4 spot. We really are, because you could get 3 teams in from the SEC if it really worked out. Because it would be hard, yes,
you need some help.
But look at everybody else. I don't see anybody that I don't feel good maybe, I mean, I would feel good in that game anyways, but Iowa is probably, to me, the third best team in the country right now, and I think they've earned that. But other than them, I really feel like that next 10 to 15 teams were in that group. And, I mean, we haven't been able to say that, and that's special. But, if you could go 10-2, I mean, because Oklahoma, I got a feeling they might lose to Texas this weekend. Who's going to get those other spots?
I don't know. Your chances of getting 3 in from the SEC are
slim.
Very, very, very slim. I mean, 2 is like a miracle. And it takes a situation like what we're going to look at this year where Georgia's going to go undefeated, Alabama's going to go undefeated. Most likely they're going to match up
they're
in
both
the
going
final.
If that's how it happens.
And they're clearly the best 2 teams. I mean, that's the only way to really make that happen. What happened, I guess it was, 2017, wasn't it, when they played the national championship game, them two?
Against
Alabama,
each other?
Georgia, yeah. What was it?
Seems like it was
16, 15?
somewhere in there, yeah.
Somewhere in there. I mean, Pittman was there.
Yeah.
I can't even remember the exact scenario. I believe that Alabama and Georgia ended up being 3-4. They ended up playing 1-2, and they beat Oklahoma. Georgia beat Oklahoma.
Ohio State.
And I believe that was right.
Remember.
But anyway, they ended up playing each other. But it was a miracle that they got 2 in. So to get a third one in would be just. But I mean, I agree with you on the point that when you look at everybody else, like Penn State's up there at number 4, do you feel pretty confident Arkansas could play well against Penn State?
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean,
because you look at college football landscape right now, and you literally have 2 teams at the top, and they are head and shoulders above anybody else. And then you have teams like Ole Miss, maybe even LSU. You can throw in a Texas. There's a lot of different teams you can take
BYU.
in and say, look, they're Tier 2 teams. Okay, do we have a shot against any of those Tier 2 teams? Absolutely.
Yep.
And Ole Miss is one of them, and I'm sorry, but I think old Oxford is a little bit too far away from the ocean, and those land sharks are going to get dried out.
Well, we've already proven it. We beat the number 7 team in the country, A&M. Yeah, they lost last week, but is that because of how roughed up they were against Arkansas? Back to what I've been saying every week, no one wants to play us after.
Yep.
We're that physical team now. We're not at Georgia or Alabama's level yet, but we're getting there. And whenever you play Arkansas, you feel it the next week, and it plays a toll.
And that's big. I mean, I think that bodes well. You're just 2 or 3 years out at this point to really, really being competitive. But everything's got to line up, too. You've got to find – so, like, next year, Arkansas's got to replace, like, so many seniors. I believe I looked, and basically half your starters are seniors. So you've got to replace all those guys.
Defensively, especially.
You're going to have to replace Traylon Burks. That's huge. There's not any
possibly Catalan.
There's probably not any Traylon Burkses out there to pick up. There's going to be a fallback a little bit next year, and then they're going to have to come up from there. But you're going to have to find guys in those key spots to really build off of that and get to that next year. If you get a KJ back for his senior year in 23, then you might look at a team that could do some big time damage at that point. I would expect that Sam Pittman's offensive lines are going to be where we want them to be by that time. I think we've seen it now.
Yeah.
Defensive line, he has an eye for that. I mean, our defensive line is as good as anybody but Alabama and Georgia.
Yes.
Yep. And so I like what we're doing. It's just going to take some time to get there.
Right. And I do think we talked about it earlier about if we'll ever get Bama and Georgia. I do think offensive line-wise especially, we can get there with Pittman here. Now, D-line, I don't think we'll ever have the depth of those 2 teams, but we could have 5-6 really good guys. But what I want to talk about real quick is our schedule the rest of the way. If we can get by Ole Miss, even if we don't, look at the rest of the schedule. So you got number 18 Auburn next week.
That's winnable.
But it's at home, and I do feel like their rating's a little bit overrated.
Well,
we don't really know what Penn State is yet, in which they almost beat Penn State.
But look at Auburn the same way Ole Miss is looking at Arkansas. We have that grudge match going on against Auburn based on what happened last year.
And it's going to be at Fayetteville.
Arkansas is winning that game.
I feel really good about that game, but you still got to play it. But, yeah, looking at the schedule, though, you got Auburn. We know the Alabama game. That's the one. But other than that, there's nobody else ranked right now. You've got UAPB. You've got a bye week after them, and then you get Mississippi State. So you got a bye week before Mississippi State, and the game before the bye week is UAPB.
So you almost got
3
bye
weeks
weeks.
basically to work on UAPB. Then, other than Bama, you've got who else we got in there? We got
LSU.
Yeah, LSU, which I can't wait to play them. They're the least physical I've seen them look under Orgeron, for sure.
They're very pedestrian right now.
Yes, I can't wait for that game. Y'all know I've been on the record for saying how my disdain for LSU.
You remember that time?
And then you got Mizzou, right? Yeah, no, I could do that all day. But so you got Mizzou, and there's one other game in there I'm forgetting right now. But
well, what is this one? This is game 6, right? Yeah, this is game 6. So you've got.
No, I got them all, I guess.
Yeah. UAPB, Mississippi State, LSU,
Missouri.
Bama,
Mizzou. Yeah, that's 5.
That's 5.
So there is somebody. There's somebody we're forgetting.
Oh, we'll look.
Nobody
it up
from
real
the
quick.
East.
Look it up real quick.
Yeah.
I got it. Auburn. Auburn's the other one.
Oh, we didn't say that.
We,
So that's
we
6.
talked about it.
Right, we talked about it. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I even if we lose this game, unless it's something weird happens that we're not expecting, and if we get blown out, no, everything's got to be relooked at. But I feel like we could win this game and we could really run the table other than Bama. And I think that game's going to be a little closer than – I don't think it's going to be like the Georgia game. And I think Pittman sees that. I think that's why he's kind of up this when he did.
Right.
St. John played a little bit in that game at guard. And if those guys can move at their weight, 350 and 330, I mean, that's going to really help us out in the long run.
I heard somebody say that they're the 2 linemen that you've got that look like Bama Georgia linemen, so that's good. Billy Harper also says when we get our running game going in this game, talking about Ole Miss, that really swings the game toward Arkansas, and that's true.
I agree.
If Arkansas has the running game going, keep it on the ground, and there really shouldn't be any reason why Arkansas shouldn't be able to run on Ole Miss, except I would think that Ole Miss is going to stack the box against Arkansas. They're going to make them play, but you feel really good. If you're going to put Traylon Burks in one-on-one situations,
100%.
you feel really good about that matchup. The thing that I worry about with Arkansas is not necessarily Burks, but really
the rest.
When you look at anybody else, there's not one guy that has even double-digit catches right now.
Yeah.
Burks has got 22, and I think the next guy has 9. They've got to have somebody step up, and that's where you miss a guy like Mike Woods. I mean, really, you miss him quite a bit.
It's a big loss. It really was. We all knew it. We talked about it when we lost him, that was going to play a role. You kind of wanted someone else to kind of step up more than they have. Now, Tyson Morris, he's had his moments. Warren Thompson's starting to show some things. These dudes are doing amazing in blocking, but you want someone to stretch it. And I know Devion Warren's had a couple spots. I know KJ missed him on a play. I think that was against A&M maybe. Anyways, but Kern, he's a guy. He's got to step up. He's on a little downhill slide right now. I think he's dropped like 4 in a row or something like that, going back to A&M. We need him to step up. We need Hudson to get healthy and really help that tight end row. But we just the freshman, Katrin Jackson, I really would like to see him have some spots. But I agree. I was kind of thinking about that already. If they're going to load the box, this could be one of those games where we show, just like we did against Georgia Southern, that we're not just a 300-yard rushing top team. We can go for 300 in the air as well. So let's just hope we can find those spots and be balanced this week and give Ole Miss fits.
It is 2 teams that, by all indication, their offenses look a little bit alike. Defenses look a lot alike. I mean, this is going to be a good game. I like Arkansas.
Classic offense versus defense type of battle here. You've got Arkansas who leans more on your defense, where they lean a little more on their offense.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at this and I think there are some things that I feel like Arkansas has some good things going for them. Is Ole Miss's defense any better than Texas's?
No.
I don't think so. So you feel good about Arkansas having an opportunity there to move the ball on them, whichever way they decide to do that. So that's, in my opinion, that's good for Arkansas. But that offense of theirs it's
really
hard.
good.
It's hard to stop, and it worries you.
Their defense, I don't know if they're as good as Texas or if Texas is as good as their defense, but their defense definitely isn't as good as A&M's.
Yeah.
And look what we did. If KJ doesn't get hurt in that game, we probably scored 30-plus points. And that was against an explosive defense. So I like that take. And I definitely think that's what I got, 31-30. I think we're going to get the points. As long as we don't turn the ball over, get punts blocked, things like that, I I think we're going to be all right offensively.
Greg Looper says 41-21 Ole Miss.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, not good, not good. I don't know if I'm going that high. Again, I'm the one right now that's taking Ole Miss in this game, and so I'm going to say that Arkansas probably gets beat somewhere around 7 to 10 points, somewhere in there. I think it's going to be tough for them to keep up. But again, like you said, if you can keep the ball on the ground,
right there.
if you can keep the ball on the ground, if you can make things happen, you know, KJ's got to make some plays this week. I love your theory about him in the running game. They need him in the running game.
Right.
You just have to be careful with him in the running game too.
Yeah.
But you know, he's 240 pounds, so you know he's
255 according to whoever it was that week. Was it Corso or Hart
he's
Street?
a big dude. I can tell you that. But anyway,
Yeah.
I like him in the running game. Again, get off to a good start. That would be a number one thing that I would be emphasizing if I'm Sam Pittman.
Yeah,
and then,
that's big.
And then let's see what happens. Try to get some momentum. Momentum is so important in sports. If you can get the momentum early, you give yourself a chance. Pick off Corral one time just to mess with his head.
That's
you know
going
what I mean?
to play an effect. If he does, it's going to start those little demons in the back of your mind, in his mind. He's going to start feeling those
Here we
insecurities.
go.
Yeah. Well,
But-
Pittman said something along the lines of, if you throw the same thing at him, you're going to get picked apart.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to bet you $100 that they throw that 3-man rush and that 8-man drop a lot at you.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
They are.
we have been able to get a pass rush against everybody but Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it shouldn't be any different this week that we're able to do that. Collapse the pocket, make him uncomfortable, give him happy feet a little bit, and see if he'll throw one to us, because he will do that.
Yeah, and they'll do something different. They'll, like we talked about last week, they'll either have the guys in a 5 shade, or you know, they'll do something a little tweaked, different than what he saw last year on that front line. But there's still going to be a lot of 3-man. That's Odom's MO, you know. So, you know, and let's not lose perspective real quick before we wrap this. That, you know, we get a little carried away here. All right, so. If we're talking 10 wins,
Nonsense.
11 wins, all that stuff, but look where we came from. You know, I think you wrote about it. I wrote about it this week. You know, we're not far, 2 years away from the Western Kentucky game. Right. You know, we lose to them about as bad, and that's an unranked team at Fayetteville.
With your old quarterback.
With your old quarterback, we looked about as bad as we did against the number 1 team or number 2 team, Georgia, last week. That's how far we've come, okay? Mm-hmm. And people, you know, you're in the moment and you want all that, and people are going to start flipping out if we happen to lose this game. But, you know, I mean, just the talk that we could be a 7-8 win team, especially, which I think we're going to be at. Minimum, I think, you know, 6 or if we only win 6 at this point, there's a lot of problems going to arise.
Right.
But, you know, we're talking 10 or 11.
Right.
But literally, if this team wins 7 or more, you should just be, all, you know, just outside of yourself with happiness.
And that's a great perspective, too, because if they lose the game on Saturday, I think you're going to have some people jumping off the cliff.
A little bit,
And there's really no reason to do that,
all.
because Ole Miss was expected to be good this year. We weren't expected to be as good as we are, for sure. I mean, we picked 6th in the West.
Yeah, I think we're ahead of Mississippi State. That's it.
That was it. And so Arkansas has already shown that they're better than that.
Mm.
I do agree with you that if you fall down into that 6 range, there is a problem, because you've already got 4. You've got a win already at 5 with UAPB. It means you need one more real win to really get to 6.
You're right.
But I think
we get to play LSU, so
I think that you're in a great spot right now. You're still in a great spot, 4-1. You even if you lose to Ole Miss, you're 4-2. But you're, like you said, schedule lightens up. Auburn's not as good as Ole Miss, not as good as Georgia. Obviously, I'd say even Texas A&M are pretty close.
Right.
And then you've got Mississippi State's a pretty good team, but you know we feel like you should feel pretty good about having a good shot at beating them. At LSU, Missouri, I mean, if you don't beat Missouri this year, you just might as well quit playing them and just forfeit to them, because, I mean, Tennessee put up 42 on them in the first half.
We thought they were going to get better, and their defense has gone even worse, and it was atrocious last year. So, I mean.
So, official score before we go.
31-28.
31-28. You got 31-30?
31-21.
I got 31-30.
You got
31-21.
31-21?
I don't know what you had.
I
think it was 35-28.
I'm gonna go.
Like I'm
gonna go. I'm gonna go 37-28. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it.
He's a hater.
We'll be back. Same place, same time next week, right here on
The Razorwire.